School Board is now called to order. Welcome to everyone here in person and those joining us online. In addition to the live stream, both audio and video are being recorded. Nurture and Challenge for Success is our district's mission. It serves as a reminder of our intent to enable every Manhattan Township student to learn, grow, and thrive. Please rise now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So announcements are next up on our agenda, and I have several. First, I'll say that members of our community are encouraged to participate in board meetings in person or to view them online. In support of both transparency and community engagement, recording of all board meetings starting with August 14th, earlier this month, can now also be watched afterwards on the district's YouTube channel. And thanks to everyone in the administration who made a big blue button so we can all find the YouTube channel. That's helpful. Board member Erin Hoffman is not present for this meeting because she's recused herself from any votes or involvement in any part of the selection process of architect firms because she's employed by one of the firms under consideration. Board member Mark Bolazar is unable to join us this evening. Lastly, I'd like to share a little bit of context on how we arrived at the decision to hold a special board meeting tonight. Facilities planning in our district is under construction. Pause for laughter. I'd like to share some details about that. In the past, facilities work was done by members of the administration who comprised the school district's facilities team. They met on a monthly basis to form recommendations that needed board votes. The superintendent invited select board members to participate in their meetings in an advisory capacity only. The work of vetting and selecting vendors was typically done behind the scenes, and afterwards, board agendas would have a recommendation to hire a recommended vendor firm. It is a typical routine in many districts to have decisions framed up in this manner. The structure and processes around how facilities work is changing for two reasons. Number one, the magnitude of the dollars involved, the impact to the community, and the complexity of the decision-making are all increasing. The board is seeking to increase transparency, accountability, and engagement. So that's the past, recent past. And the future, the board is moving toward a facilities committee of the board. Board committees follow all the same rules for notifying the community of a meeting, posting agendas publicly, including time for public comment that regular board meetings have. Any committee meeting will also be recorded and available on the district's YouTube channel that I mentioned before. Moving to a new structure will require a policy change, which will require first and second readings of the September and October board meetings. The transition. This is where we are today. Today is the date of the regularly scheduled monthly meeting of the facilities team. The board and the administration are taking an interim step together to make upstream processes more transparent by holding it as a called board meeting instead of a closed meeting. Rather than having an upstream selection process and bringing only one firm forward to the board with a recommendation to hire, we will hear from Mrs. Robbins and Mr. Koch and Mr. Charles tonight at this meeting about the process of selecting and vetting the two firms that the board will choose between. The full board will have an opportunity to ask questions, and we'll have a chance to hear from community members prior to voting. I think that is all my announcements, finally. Next, we'll get to our presentation, which is the Trower Elementary Study Phase 1, Mr. Koch, Plant Manager, Mr. Charles, Assistant Plant Manager, and Mrs. Robbins, our Chief Operating Officer. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to do the happy dance as we start the construction project of New Trower Elementary School. And that's the first process by hiring an architect. And that's where we are right now. Okay. All right. So selecting an architect concludes a 5-month process that started with us sending an RFP to 4 pre-vetted firms. Every one of the firms has either worked for the district in the past and done a project or has been involved with projects that the district has done. We then interviewed the 4 firms in July and evaluated them based on 5 criteria: relevant experience, vision and educational alignment, creative design approach, communication evaluation, and sustainability and future readiness. Through the process, we narrowed the pool down to 2 firms, Rieslauer, Patrick and Scott, and the Schrader Group. We then asked the 2 firms to provide additional cost information, and we also reached out to their references to rate key factors of their performance, and these results will be distributed. So tonight we are requesting that the Board of School Directors select an architect to perform Phase 1 work. Phase 1 work is to investigate and provide a thorough analysis of all relevant factors for Nitrower Elementary School, provide cost estimates, provide a recommendation based on a minimum of 3 options, specifically a full renovation of the existing school to address aging systems and code deficiencies with no addition, a full renovation of the existing school to address aging systems, code deficiencies, and add approximately a 40,000 square foot addition to address programming needs. And the third option is a 140,000 square foot building, new building, to address the programming needs, and then demolish the existing Nitrower Elementary School. Upon the architect's completion of Phase 1 work, the Manheim Township School District will then have a right to enter into an agreement with the firm, of course, based on liking Phase 1. We wanted to give a back door, we wanted to give an exit plan, just in case things don't work. We don't envision that, but we just wanted to make sure you had that option. At a negotiated price for Phase 2 services. Phase 2 services will include the design, detailed drawings, specifications, preparation of bid documents, and construction administration of the selected project. As noted in the previous slides, once we narrowed the field down to 2 firms, we reached out to their respective references. We had to provide a project fee for a hypothetical $40 million project. We wanted to do that just so you would have an idea, what would Phase 2 cost? We know what Phase 1 costs, and the board will be approving that tonight. But we wanted to give you a hypothetical of what a cost for a $40 million project would cost. And we asked for pricing for Phase 3 and 4 of the campus master plan. If you recall, we took a pause on that, took a step back. Do we want to add that to the scope of services of the selected architect? So that will be a board action in September. Zach?
Good evening. As Tom mentioned, with the Nitrower study, Phase 1, I have some proposed costs for everyone. Phase 1, RLPS fees is $24,900. Phase 1 fees for the Schrader Group are $55,880. Please note that both firms would fully reimburse this amount upon completion and advancement to Phase 2. Moving on down, additional costs. We have hypothetical project fees for a total project budget of $40 million on a hypothetical site for Nitrower Elementary. That fee for RLPS came in at $2 million, and the Schrader Group came in at $2,056,050. As you can see, each of the firms' fees are around 5 or 6% of the total cost of the project, total budget of the project. Keep moving on down. We have the Master Campus Plan project fees for Phase 3. These fees are based on the previous architect's conceptual plans. RLPS came in at $1,332,400. The Schrader Group came in at $1,446,880. Just to refresh everyone on the board's memory of what Phase 3 consists of. Phase 3 would be bleacher upgrades at the stadium, home and away, a team room, a field house, new parking, softball and baseball improvements, and concessions, ticket booths, and scoreboard upgrades. Moving on down to project fees for phase 4 of the campus master plan. Phase 4 consists of the indoor practice facility if the board and administration decides to go that route. RLPS came in at $750,000, and the Schrader Group came in at $865,400. I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Robbins.
Good evening. So we're finally at the next step where we're asking the board to vote this evening on a firm for phase 1. And so these, later on in the evening when we're ready to do that, there's 2 possible motions based on what Zach had said. It's very important to note that both of these options would net out to 0, assuming that we would move these firms to phase 2, which would be a board vote later on. And then in September, what we're proposing is whoever you award this evening would move on to be recommended next month as the architect for the campus master plan phases 3 and 4 that would occur next month. We did provide, these is also attached to your agenda, but just for ease, we did provide you with the original phase 1 proposals and then the additional information that we requested secondly for the firms and also the cost and for the more specific cost information that you can find there on the PowerPoint. And we are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. What questions does the board want to start with? Dr. Henderson.
Hi, thank you guys for the presentation. I just have a timing question. Is there, like we just had a board meeting that was half an hour, less than half an hour. Is there a reason why this couldn't have been presented in that meeting? Was the information, because I don't understand the purpose of a separate meeting for this. So was there some reason was there information we did not have?
I'm gonna just chime in, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure of it. This is not later than August. I'll just say it's earlier than September. So this would have been something that would have come to us after the facilities team met tonight. Mrs. Robbins, Mr. Koch, a few board members would have met behind closed doors and come to us with a recommendation of one of these firms at our September meeting if we did it the way we've been used to doing it. But instead, we wanted to say, could we have more discussion, more dialogue, more vetting, and consider maybe more than one choice?
I understand that. The issue I have is the timing, just the timing. So we are having a special meeting, something that was not planned. And in the interest of the public, our constituents, rolling this into one meeting instead of 2, I think would have been more convenient. I don't know if there's a reason to have a separate meeting for this, and that's the issue I have. So people have to plan to come out again. I don't know if it's a great use of the public's time. I don't know if it's all of us have busy lives. I'm not sure if it's doing us. I don't know if it's the best to have 2 meetings instead of 1. Especially if we had this information last week. The meeting was less than 30 minutes. I'm saying for the community, for the student body, and for the good of the board members, that maybe make it more streamlined.
I'll just chime in that work was still underway, so the administration's been doing some more information gathering on our behalf, including reference checks that weren't done by last week. But your point is well taken about the routine that the board and our community is used to.
But this will be, moving forward, this is going to be the new format, right? Or is this just truly a special meeting? Or will there be a separate all-board facilities meeting each month like this?
We will make some decisions about the committee structure, but it'll be a board committee that has a planned schedule in advance in a routine once we establish
separate
it.
from the normal board meeting.
Yes, that's the board committee. The board committee,
Right.
Facilities committee
We'll have a
will meet
meeting like
separately.
this every month. So just for clarification, I'm not saying I agree or don't agree, but I think last week was maybe an anomaly that was a half hour, right? Sometimes they're 2 hours, and then if you were to add the facilities onto that, then it would extend it. So while it's kind of inconvenient to come out in half hour then and however long today, during those meetings where we're here for 2.5 hours in a work session, I guess I might appreciate coming out a second time.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson, Mrs. Romano, Ms. Lamb.
Just for clarification, the facilities team was going to meet regardless, correct? And we're now getting the opportunity to make it public so that we can all be a part of this, including the community, and that's the reason why. And we haven't voted on a facility team, that's on the next voting agenda, and that's why this is a special meeting.
It'll be on the voting agenda after we change the policy that will allow us to vote on it. So, yes.
So this is like just a way so that we can all be involved.
Yes, only only 3 or 4 board members are there in the facilities team in an advisory capacity. In this way, we can invite the whole board. And when we invite the whole board, we always invite the public, as per also the law. Mr. Landis.
I don't want to go any further in the weeds, but point well taken. There is other school districts around here that have separate committees that meet in public. They do it the same day, like right before the board meeting. So there's other things, there's other options we can consider. And I think that's all stuff that we should talk about since the new business was brought up next month, because we haven't actually voted on that or even discussed it.
Correct.
Just
Thanks for that.
food for thought, but point well taken.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. Mr. Grunter.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you, Mr. Landis, in that I take this as some growing pains that are reflective of the previous practice, which had been going on for some time. And I was on that facilities team wherein we would be meeting, but there weren't publicly accessible notes. There wasn't available to receive and hear public comment. And certainly given the scale and importance of what we're talking about this evening, in particular around mid-hour, but also in general around the outlay of significant tax dollars and significant financial decisions by this district, that we wanted to, speaking for myself, and that's why I made the motion last board meeting to switch over to this committee format, which will allow for far more public engagement and accountability, quite frankly, to us and the decisions that we make and how we reach those decisions. And so understand your frustration, Dr. Henderson, glad you raised it. But I hoping that you forgive a little bit of a bump on the road as we land this, and I know it'll be on the agenda for discussion on next month's board meeting on how we do land that. I would be happy to pass to Mrs. Hens. Otherwise, I was going to get into some substantive discussion about the proposal we just saw, but happy to proceed.
I was just going to bring our focus back to the point of the meeting is to actually choose the architects.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunt.
And I was going to ask a question around that.
Thank you.
Although I'm happy to hear what Mr. Spender has to say as well. I was just wondering, of the two that have been brought to us, when have we dealt with those architects in the past, in what project, and how do we feel about each one? I assume we were happy if they're here in front of us, but I would just like a little bit of comment.
We initially had 4 firms that we pre-vetted. The 2 that are remaining is Reese, Lauer, Patrick, and Scott. Little history. They were the architects of record for Brecht, Neff. Actually, the Nitro project back in '89. They also were Reidenbach and Schaefer. So they have a lot of experience. When the district looked to go to the high school, they were looking for more of a national firm, and they put out RFPs to firms. And if you recall, it was a company called Fanning Howey, and they were out of the Midwest. The Schrader Group was actually hired by Remington Burdick Engineers.
if you remember Anina's an engineer, and her firm hired Schrader to come up with the 11 options, all of those options that we had when we made the middle school decision. So we had great experience with them. They could not bid on the middle school project because we wanted to ensure that there was no incentive for a certain recommendation. So once you worked for Remington Vernon, you could not bid on the middle school project.
Thanks for bringing that all back to mind. And then the only thing I have to say about any of this, because I feel we cannot go wrong with either architectural firm. I like the look of the work coming from RLPS more so than the other. And that, other than that, I'm happy to go with consensus to whatever the board says.
Thank you, Mrs. Hens. Thank you, Mr. Koch. Mr. Grenter. Oh, sorry. We have Ms. Lynn.
I just want to say thank you for the attention that we've been bringing to Mitchell Elementary. I agree with Mrs. Hens. Originally, when we were presented 4 firms, I felt like we couldn't go wrong with all 4. The administration has done a great job vetting those firms. I do see a significant price difference between the 2. Is there a reason that Schrader is almost double? And I know that will be reimbursed into the project later on, but just for clarity purposes, what's the next step of
I think when you look at phase 1, to many firms, I don't know if the pricing is as important, because if you go to phase 2, it really is 0. But with that being said, some people will use it as a loss leader. They'll be lower in price just because they want to get phase 2. So you have to be cautious of that. So when I look at it, as Donna said, this is really, I would very well be surprised if we didn't go to phase 2 with either firm. And with that being said, the cost is actually 0. I hope that answered your question.
A little. I think I looked at the full scale, and there is a difference between the 2 regardless. But it's, I would say, maybe not a huge difference, but there is a difference. So I was trying to see if there was a reason for that. But I'm looking at through the different phases as well. I thought there would be an exact answer.
Yeah, it's hard when you estimate how different corporate structures work. But I think if you look at it, like as Zach mentioned, you're looking at, for a total project, about 5 to 6% on a $40 million project. I wouldn't recommend using a percentage. I would recommend a negotiated fee that we would sit down and say, okay, if we're looking at that, what is the cost and how did you arrive at that cost, rather than picking an arbitrary number.
Mrs. Romano.
Yeah, I just had one question, and maybe not a question, yes, a question, or something to think about. But it's kind of mind-boggling to me that the proposed fee for phase 4 for just like one standalone facility is more than half of the extensive plans for the camp, like phase 3. And so I just wonder if during this process we get more detail on that, or ask for them for a better price. But it just seems kind of crazy to me, like $750,000 for just the practice facility plans, right? That's what that's saying. Seems like a lot for one building.
I would agree with you. I found it surprising as well, but.
And that's a lower one.
Yeah, that is. And that's why it's best to negotiate.
Like, throw that in for free, pick you.
Well, we're going to send Kim on all our sales. Dr. Henderson.
My question is asked.
All right. Mr. Grenter.
I kind of have a question also, just want to kind of get some clarification and make sure. I know there's some folks who are here with us, and I'm sure there's folks listening, so I want to make sure that we're all tracking where we are, because there's a lot of moving pieces here. for example, I thought that phase 4 cost was a construction cost. I didn't even
Right.
particularly realize until you just flagged that. So thank you, Mrs. Romano, for raising that. I found both firms very compelling when they came and presented to us. I'm aligned with Mrs. Hens that I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I certainly appreciated the history that we have with RLPS as a school district. Also, the fact that their firm's office is practically a stone's throw away from the Trower itself, and many of the folks who would be working on the project are township residents. I found quite compelling. But so what this board is taking action on tonight is to retain one of these firms to present a recommendation for us of those 3 initial options of whether we want to fully renovate, whether we want to renovate and add square footage, or a brand new building. That's all that we're deciding this evening, though obviously our choice this evening is going to have ramifications for the future of this project as we continue to evaluate it and engage moving forward. But I just want to make sure that's really clear that there are a number of phases that we're looking down the road to and anticipating, but tonight we're only thinking about phase 1. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood where we're at and what that looks like. I guess I would say, I thought, I've had the opportunity to look through the proposals that the administration gathered and put together for us, including some of the comparable school projects, the recent projects they've done, and certainly I find the anonymous recommendations from school districts that have done business with these groups lately to be compelling, and both received quite high scores, though there is a difference there. I found particularly the ability just through my kids playing sports to spend some time on the Warwick campus and their athletic facilities that I've been quite impressed by, though I would never tell them that. But I know that was an RLPS project, and they spoke about that to us, and so that is certainly some lived experience that I have that is underscoring my how I think I'm gonna where I'm leaning right now. Though I certainly want to hear from folks for public comment as well. But I just want to commend the firms for putting their best foot forward and making it a challenging decision for us that I think is only going to have good outcomes. And I'm really excited for the future of Metro.
Thank you, Mr. Grantor. Yes, for anyone who's watching online or here in person who doesn't have all the papers up in front of them, and mid-Trower equals, phase 1 equals mid-Trower. So we're talking about our focus on mid-Trower. I just don't want that to get lost in all the details we're all talking about. Are there other questions, Mr. Landis?
I don't really have any questions, sorry. But thank you so much to the team, the administrative team, and the rest of the facilities team that's been working on this. And I think there's a great format here to have it out in public. Everyone might be able to see what is going on, since this is a large project, significant project. I also this was already discussed at the beginning, or the air was sort of cleared, but Mrs. Hoffman has had, no influence over this process. She hasn't been involved at all in any of these decisions, just to clear the air on that, that there hasn't been behind the scenes, things going on at all. So I wanted to clear the air on that. At this point, I'm actually leaning towards RLPS. I thought they presented a little bit better when the 4 firms presented to us last month. But yeah, both firms obviously are top-notch firms. I think I could be happy with either one.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. Any other discussion, questions, any kind of concerns? If not, I'm gonna just lay out the sections that we're gonna go through. So this is our presentation section where we're gonna have some of this free dialogue discussion. We'll have a little bit more because we're gonna have community comments. Then when we move to our next section for approval agenda or agenda modification, if there's any feeling based on what we hear now, what we're going to hear to amend the agenda, that's in section 4. wanted to amend the agenda in any way, that's in section 4. And then we'll talk more about section 5. We'll be making a motion to vote on one of the 2 firms. And again, there'll be another opportunity for discussion before the actual vote is called. Any other discussion in this section? No, you'll have other opportunities. All right. I'm going to hold any of my comments till we get to a future section. Manhattan Township community comments on action items. Could just say action item, because there's only one. So residents, taxpayers, district employees, and students are all welcome and encouraged to participate. The board won't engage in discussion with you at this time, but follow-up will be provided if needed. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a commenter's card for the board to collect. Limit your remarks to 5 minutes related only to this action item before us this evening, and share your full name before you begin. Who would like to make comments this evening? Sorry, I have a signature on everything. Oh. We'll be really quiet when you come forward. Do we have a mobile mic? We'd like to give you 10 extra points for all the jobs you're doing right now. And if you would just share your full name with us before you begin.
Sure. My name is Colleen Sabatino.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a parent of 4 kids in the district, so excited about this conversation. I have a couple questions actually that maybe can be followed up later, just relevant to this decision and kind of the process that will go into it. My first is around what the timeline looks like depending on which of the 3 approaches we choose for Nick Trower, whether we do a full building remodel, or we do an addition, or we just do a renovation. I'm interested in what the timeline looks like for those 3 and how it would affect, the teachers and students. I'm also interested in what goes into deciding between those 3 besides cost. So, what else are we factoring in? Are we looking at the way in which the community might expand? Are we thinking about the impact on students and families, or how quickly we can turn things around? And then my last is part comment, part question, which is, depending on the approach chosen, I imagine some of them will take a lot longer than others. And what are we going to do to mitigate some of the issues happening at the school right now until we can get there? So I know you all have discussed and know some of the HVAC issues, some of the water quality issues, and rodents and things, happening at the school. And so wondering, how we can mitigate some of that, knowing that we can't solve everything right now, but there's going to be, I imagine, a very long process, no matter what phase you choose, and just wanting to know what is the plan to get us to there. So, but I really appreciate that this is under discussion. I'm really happy that you all have taken a response to some of our community concerns, and I'm glad that we're prioritizing this for our kids. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And yes, you'll have some follow-up to those questions coming to you. Great. Are there other community comments this evening? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to our next section, which is for approval of the agenda or agenda modification. Is there a motion to either approve or modify the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Hens has moved to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Grunter, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carries. Now we are at item number 5, which is our action item, and I'll read it for you. It's a recommendation to approve RLPS Architects for Phase 1 of Nitrower Elementary School in the amount of $24,900 with the full amount reimbursed upon completion of study and advancement to Phase 2. Or motion to approve Schrader Group for Phase 1 of Nitrower Elementary School in the amount of $55,880 with the full amount reimbursed upon completion of study and advancement to phase 2. Is there a motion? I'd like to entertain a motion.
I would
Ms.
like
Lamb.
to make a motion to approve RLPS British Route Phase 1 at a cost of $24,900 with a full amount reimbursed upon completion of study and advancement to phase 2.
Is there a second? Mr. Landis. Now is our next time for discussion. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote and ask all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries for RLPS architects, to be the architects that we've chosen. I'm going to read the whole entire phrase again, unless our parliamentarian needs me to. Okay, she's got it. Now we are at item number 6, Manheim Township community comments. Residents, taxpayers, district employees, and students are all welcome and encouraged to participate. The board won't engage in discussion at this time, but will provide follow-up if needed. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a commenter's card for our board secretary to collect, and please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. And share your full name if you would before you begin. Who would like to make community comments this evening? Taking me up on it, then we will move on to adjournment. That brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Grenter, is there a second? Mrs. Romano. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is Thursday, September 11th, 2025 at 6 p.m. here in the district office. Meetings will be live streamed and recorded for viewing purposes. Thank you to all Manheim Township staff, administrators, and volunteers for your dedication to our students and community. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carries. Thanks to all. We are adjourned.